Hi everyone, Helen Blunden here at Activate Learn on Twitter. It is time for another book review, and this time round I have a first-time novelist that has written a book called Fault Lines. She's Emily Itami. She's a Japanese-born, London-based author. This is her first book, and I'm glad I read this book. A couple of days ago I went into the library and I saw this book on the bookshelves, just on the top shelf, and I picked it out simply because I love the cover. I didn't know anything about Emily. I didn't know anything about the story. When I looked at the story on the back, and I thought it's a modern love story. It's described as a modern love story. And I thought, oh, should I, shouldn't I? And I thought, why not? You never know what you might find. And I'm glad I found this and I read this because it sucked me straight in. Within a day, I had finished the book because the story was simply beautiful. Beautiful. And the writing was also quite lovely. So what is this book about? It is about Mizuki, who I take it she's in her 30s. She's a really bored Japanese housewife. She's living in a high-rise apartment with Tatsuo, who is her husband. He's a very hard-working man who works very long hours, but she's utterly bored of her life and of him. She's got two young children, Eri, who's a young girl about 10 going on to 17, and a toddler by the name of Aki, who is keeping her hands full, to say the least. As I said, she's bored out of her skull, and this story is really about her recounting her life and relationship with her mother and her father and her time in the US. Her father, when she was young, had sent her off to the US, to New York, on an exchange program, and there her world opened. Everything was open to her, and it was a very completely different way of expression, of communicating with people, of connecting with people, and she loved it. Initially she had some difficulties, but with the help of her friend Cassie, she loved the life. She then went back to the US and got into a career. She didn't do university, but she went into a career of singing. She became a great singer. She loved the singing lifestyle and loved everything that life in the US afforded her. But she got to a point where she needed to get back to Japan because she was missing her parents, and there was some kind of obligation there to come back to get married. And she met Tatsuo, got married, and had the kids, but now she was utterly bored. So the book talks about her meeting a young restaurateur around her age by the name of Kiyoshi, who was quite good looking, and she fell for him, but at the same time obviously she was married, she had young kids, and she didn't know how she felt about the situation. But she was someone who could easily compartmentalize, and this is what I loved about this book, the fact that she could actually separate the feelings that she had of Kiyoshi to really understanding, well, she actually does have a life with her husband and her two kids. So she was not at times mixed up, but she seemed to be quite firm in really understanding where she preferred to be. Even though she loved Kiyoshi, she really knew where her allegiances were, and at the end of the day she was quite sensible about them. But before you think that this is going to be a book about an affair and it's sordid, it's not that. It is not that. It's actual, when I think about this book, I really think about the love of a mother, how strong the love of a mother is, and how she keeps her wits about her, in the sense that she thinks long term about the impact of her decisions, but ultimately she's still someone who comes out very strong, and she doesn't lose herself in the relationship. In fact, she's actually quite a strong woman. And as I read this book and how she interacted with her children, how she interacted with her husband as well, and how she had this relationship with Kiyoshi as well, and also her girlfriends, made me realize that she's a very strong character, a wonderful character, and someone worthy of being read. So I love this book. I truly would recommend it to anyone who would like to read it. It is called Fault Lines by Emily Itami. It gives us some real glimpses into Japanese life, Japanese culture, the way that people in Tokyo live their lives, work their lives, and it was just a lovely book. So highly recommended, Fault Lines by Emily Itami. Bye for now.